Hi guys, today I thought we'd do a video that's quite different. I'm going to call this video a spiritual chats video, where basically I'm going to just sit here and talk to you about some ideas, so we can have a conversation. So there may be some things that you learn from this video. I hope that it does help you in some way, but I think that maybe just talking, about spiritual things is quite cool for us to do in this relaxed and informal type way. So today's topic, which you may have seen from the title of this video, is about the unfortunate sad passing of my pet cat, Sparkle. Sparkle came into our lives in 1998, so that would have been 20 years ago in September. I was 8 years old when this lovely cat came into my life, and she was a rescue cat, and she was feral, half feral, so she wasn't necessarily a very loving animal to begin with. She was quite mischievous and liked to attack your feet when you walk past, but over time she mellowed as she got older, and then I acquired some more animals, some more cats. And she was teaching them how to hunt and things, which wasn't very nice for me, considering I love animals so much, and finding, kind of little rodents wasn't great. But it was kind of sweet at the same time that she was training the other cats up to kind of take her place as the queen of the neighborhood. So that's what kind of character she was, and we made the decision to put her to sleep as she was very old. 20 years old is old for a cat, and it was her time to go, and I went with her to the vets as they put her to sleep. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about this today isn't just because I really want to talk about my cat. It's because I really learned something beautiful about death from this incident, from this situation rather. So I was offering her, Reiki healing. I'm a Reiki master, and I was offering her angelic, protection and all those lovely things. And she was very much at peace. And it was the final second. If you can see energy as well, you'll definitely know what I mean. But even if you can't physically see energy, because you haven't trained that aspect of your third eye yet, you'll know that there's the sense of, I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but when the spirit kind of leaves your body, your soul goes back to source, and it's it happens quite quickly, and it's a very beautiful moment. Now, I haven't been able to fully immerse myself in it before, as it's usually been with a human being, and it's very difficult. Sometimes we detach a little bit from that situation because it's very painful and hard, and although it was very sad to lose my cat, I was able to empathize more and be in that moment with her more, because she was a furry friend and not a human acquaintance, and that's why I found it easier. So what happened after that, she passed, I came to this realization. So the realization that I came to was something that my grandmother had shared with me a few years ago. She passed away, and she was still very young. She was 71 years old, and I don't think she'd mind me sharing this with you, but she basically said to me that I would feel a tremendous amount of pain, that I would really grieve very hard for her, it'd be very difficult for me, but one day that would go, and I would no longer have that ache in my heart. And as a few years went by, I kind of wasn't in that initial grief. If you've lost somebody, you know what I mean. That initial, it's a bit like shock, or you feel sick, or everybody feels grief slightly differently. A lot of us have the same experiences, but for me, I was quite numb at first, and then this ache is just oh, it hurts so bad. You just feel like your heart's been ripped out your chest. That's what it feels like. And then over time, that ache subsides, but it's still very difficult sometimes to talk about that person. Then you start to be able to reminisce about the good times that you shared with them, but still, ache And what I learned from the passing of my pet cat was that in that moment of death, there is this complete peace. And it made me realize what my grandmother was saying, that she was at peace. She passed and now she was at peace. And I know we hear it, you know, a lot, like, oh, they're at peace now, or rest in peace. Sometimes that's not very, very comforting to us, you know, to begin with, because it's like, well, yeah, but they're not here. And we live in a dualistic kind of reality, so we can both be mortal and immortal at the same time. Our soul is immortal, it does live on, yet our physical body is mortal and it doesn't. The thing that we are grieving for, the thing that we miss, is that physical connection with that person, their laugh, their smile, the advice you'd get from them, touching their hand, looking into their eyes, hearing their voice. Those things you just miss, and you haven't got that physical connection. And when we're a human being on this earthly plane, that is one of the things, well, the main thing about the point of this planet is to have physical feelings so we can build physical connections. And that's why it's so hard when we lose somebody, because although yes, their soul lives on, we have lost them in terms of this physical form. And so it is a grief, and it is a death, and it is difficult. A lot of cultures grieve very differently. Some cultures you'll see, you know, the women in the family going out into the street and doing something that's known as wailing, where you just wail for the person that you've lost. You cry and you scream. And I think that is quite wonderful, actually. You know, I kind of wish we did that more in our Western society, and maybe some places do, I don't know, but you know, because that's sometimes what you feel like, isn't it? You want to just, you know, scream and shout and all that. So I learned that from, you know, my cat's passing, that there was this peace within death that I hadn't acknowledged fully before. I knew it on a, you know, academic level, if you want to call it that. I knew it on a logical level, that, oh yeah, acceptance. But feeling it and experiencing it is different than just knowing that that's a stage of grief. I just want to mention I'm not a grief counselor, so you know, we're just having our spiritual chat here. But you know, you may want to reach out to a grief counselor or somebody. You know, if you just Google like I need help with grief and then put like your country in there, that things will come up, and I think that might be really beneficial if you do need some help with that. So yeah, I really learned this about this with my cat, and what I found really interesting was that death, or the fear of death, or the fear of the death of a loved one, are on like the top 10 list of people's fears. Other fears that are on there are things like fear of heights, fear of swimming in the sea, fear of spiders, fear of clowns. But I find that so interesting, because if you don't like clowns and you don't like swimming in the sea and you don't like heights, you can pretty much easily avoid those things for your entire life if you want to. The thing that you cannot avoid, though, is death, because that's part of life. We are all going to die, and I know that's really difficult for some people to stomach, but it's the truth. And I just don't think that death should be this taboo subject where we're like, ooh, you know, I even, you know, considered not doing this video because I thought, oh, well, you know, people don't like hearing about death, people don't like talking about death, or it's morbid. But it's like, it's part of our everyday life. We don't have a problem talking about birth. In fact, we share pictures of birth all the time, we talk about birth all the time, we celebrate birth all the time, and that's fantastic, and it's joyful and it's wonderful. But death seems to be, especially in this Western culture, something that's very like kept stum. Like, we don't talk about it, we don't open up about it. And I thought that with the death of my cat, it would be like a little bit of an in for us to have a wider discussion about death in and of itself. And like I said with this video, I'm not really trying to teach you anything here, because death is so personal, I think, in my opinion. There are different situations of how we lose people. You know, there are different ages people get lost, we have different relationships, and that doesn't make death any easier or you know, harder. It's kind of like there's just different situations, and each of those things is going to be dealt with separately, differently, and each person is going to deal with those situations separately and differently. So there's not like a band-aid one size fits all idea on how we can we can deal with death, because it's different for everyone. I just have my quotes on today to keep me nice and grounded in the vibration high whilst we talk about something that is seen as a morbid subject. So yeah, I just wanted to open up this discussion like about the death and loss, because it affects us all. There's so many different things, you know. I've lost family members, but I've also lost friends, and I've also witnessed many accidents, unfortunately, especially in my younger years. Wherever, you know, I went to certain places and I would witness, you know, accidents which resulted in death, which were very difficult to process, especially as a child. Apart from them being very traumatic in the event, it was traumatic because I always felt like, well, why am I always there? You know, like, did I do it? Like, you know, you have these strange ideas. But no matter how death has affected or touched your life, there are some things that you should know from a spiritual viewpoint, because this is a spiritual channel. And so I want to just leave you with the spiritual viewpoint a little bit, my spiritual viewpoint, I should say. So we've already discussed that your soul does live on. Eventually you'll find some comfort in that, but it doesn't, like I say, help with the initial pain. And I understand that. I have been there, and but that is something to know. The second thing is that the moments just before death are always peaceful. As with I saw with my cat, people will die for all different reasons, but the actual moment when your soul leaves your body is very peaceful. And in terms of archangels, the archangel that guides you through the death process is called Archangel Azrael. Now, his color, in terms of his auric field, is this beautiful, like creamy, yellowy, beigey, goldy color. And it's so, I get tingles when I speak about him, and I tear up a bit because he is so, the energy that angel is beautiful. It's like the most comforting, warm, peaceful energy that you could ever imagine. And so I want you to know that if you have lost anybody, that is the archangel that helps them through that process. And when I learned about Archangel Azrael, and I kind of reached out to that wonderful angelic energy just to get a sense of what it feels like. And it's just peace. It is just pure bliss. Bliss would be the word for it. I don't even know the word to describe it. Peace. And so that is the angelic energy that awaits us all for when we go through that process. And, you know, I would feel completely safe and protected and loved within that energy. And so that's another thing to remember, whether it's your furry friends or somebody in your family or your friends or whoever. That's the beauty that awaits them. And so yeah, I hope that you don't mind that I've kind of just done this like little spiritual chats, informal, casual video with you guys. But I wanted to talk about death. I wanted to open up the discussion of death because, like I say, I don't think it's talked about enough. And I just want us to talk about all things that touch our lives, and death is such a big part of that for all of us. So to deny that it happens, or to deny, like, let's not talk about it, or, oh, let's skim over death and talk about happy things, you know, I don't think that's very responsible, really, where I'm coming from as a spiritual teacher. I want to be able to talk about all the things in life, and death is one of them. And so I'm not going to, you know, go on and on about it anymore. Maybe in the future I'll do like another type of death type video, because I think we should be talking about it, and I'm very passionate about that fact. And so I'd love to know what you thought. If you didn't like it, or you did like it, or you know, what about this style of just conversation rather than the tips videos. I will still be doing those with you guys, but I think with topics that I feel are extra sensitive, I'd rather do it in this format. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video. I'm sending you so much warm wishes, and you know, whatever you're going through right now, whatever kind of, you know, we all have different kinds of losses as well. It isn't just, you know, it's not just the deaths. We have different losses in our lives. I just want you to know that your angels are your biggest supporters. The universe loves you unconditionally, and there's always people out there that you can reach out to if you need help, if you need support. There are helplines that you can Google, that you can find out about. And I want you to know that as well. So I'll speak to you again soon with another spiritual chats videos. I love you lots. Alyssa.